If you look through human religious history, and it doesn't really matter where you look, you will always find one guiding motif. The divine connects with the human realm, and for a while, that connection sustains righteousness and faith. And then slowly humans drift away to do their own thing, and the divine has to reach out again and reconnect humans to put them back on the path of righteousness. In the Old Testament, God enters into an everlasting covenant with the people of Israel. God will be their God, and the people will be God's people. But as soon as a relationship gets comfortable like an old shoe, or on the other side of the spectrum, it might get too demanding and too inconvenient, the people drift away from God and start worshiping other gods. They don't forget God, but they think, what's wrong with worshiping a couple of pagan deities at their side? Idols are always the product of culture and sentiment. When humans try to understand the realm of the divine in purely human terms, idol worship equates human experience of being subjected to earthly power and might with divine purpose. Idols do what we would do if we were gods and others were at the mercy of us. Therefore, idols often tend to be petty and cruel, and they amplify the dark side of the human character, because nearly unlimited power inevitably corrupts the character of the powerful if they do not have a loving God as an ethical and spiritual counterweight. That's God's warning to the people of Israel when they cry out for a king. God says, the king will abuse you, and the kings do. Amplify that tendency for abuse onto a divine scale, and you end up with idols that have extreme demands. For example, burn your firstborn male children in a hollow cult statue to the glory of a pagan god called Molech. The Bible uses the phrase path through fire to describe this human sacrifice. In 2 Kings 16:3, just to quote one verse, the scriptures tell us about King Ahaz, son of Jotham of Judah. He walked in the way of the kings of Israel. He even made his son pass through fire according to the abominable practices of the nations whom the Lord drove out before the people of Israel. This means that he burned his firstborn son alive in a fire as a human sacrifice. And the image we associate with hell, the fiery furnace that burns sinners, comes from this practice of throwing children into a fire as human sacrifices. These cult practices happened in the valley of Hinnom in Jerusalem, just a short walk away from the temple of the Lord. Even though just a few steps removed from God's presence on earth, it is at the same time the greatest distance you can travel away from God. This place in Hebrew called Gehinnom, and in the original Greek of the New Testament, it's transliterated as Gehenna, and in English it is translated as hell. Cultic actions and rituals tend to develop a life of their own. They emerge as carriers of deep meaning, where the connection between human and the divine is reenacted. And the ritual serves as a means to relive this encounter with God as an immediate expression of the closeness between God and humans. But over time, deep meaning can fade, and the intricacies of ceremonial act take center stage. And sometimes the meaning of ceremonies is completely forgotten, and the only justification for doing those acts is a classic phrase, we do it because we've always done it this way. I'm sure that nobody would subject to public prayers that honestly testify to the struggle of humans to do and to find out what is right. But if they become hollow rituals that serve as vessels for worldview and culture, then they quickly become the bone of contention. Even non-religious people appreciate the struggle of the faithful when they wrestle with the big questions of life. It might not be how they struggle, but they too have to figure out what is right too. And if we are open, we can perceive the multitude of ways the unchurched and the non-religious try to solve the big questions of our time. But if religious ritual, or on the other side, secular ways of doing things, become means to force a certain worldview onto other people, conflict is all but inevitable. Idolatry, the worship of idols, creeps in everywhere, from ISIS to the worship of money and greed. Culture and sentiment seek to push a loving God from God's throne to replace God with the idols that are the mirror image of the dark side of the human mind as it asserts itself at a specific time and place. Idolaters of all shades have different messages, but they all glorify their narrow, self-serving worldview, and they do not glorify God. Our gospel story, which opens the season of Lent, is a call to examine ourselves and to reevaluate what we are doing. Which of our ways are still valid, healthy, and serve to pour God's love out into the world again? And where have we drifted away from God? Where have our prayers become showpieces intent to elevate us in the sight of others? Where do we carry the cross of Jesus as a prop or status symbol? And where do we follow the man from Galilee into the realm where it really hurts? Do we love God with all our heart, all our mind, and all our might, or do we go through the motions because that is what we've always done? In order to be agents of grace who pour God's love out into the world again, we need our faith to be fresh and immediate. Examining and seriously questioning does not mean to cheapen it, but to dig deeper into its meaning and to keep it fresh and sharp and reliable when it counts. Jesus is not a destination. Jesus is a way. Following Jesus, we reach our ultimate destination when our time on this earth ends and we arrive in the loving arms of God. Until then, we are on the move with all the change that entails. Amen.